Yes, you read it right, guys. Video games can teach you very important life lessons. Growing up, did your parents tell you not to play video games because they're a complete waste of time? I know mine did. The funny thing is, even though I went to one of the top high schools in New York City as well as NYU, I feel I learned more about money, finance, economics, as well as life lessons from playing video games. If you've ever played an MMO, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I've learned how to make so much money in MMO games themselves that it's actually spilled over into my real life. At that time, I was playing an MMORPG, or massive multiplayer online role-playing game called Runescape. What Runescape taught me was you can make money by providing a service, and you can make even more money by using your money to make money. Sounds a lot like real life, right? Well, real life is one of the simplest ways to explain what an MMORPG is like. Each player controls one character, and you play with hundreds of thousands of other players in the same game world at the same time. You're able to interact with each other similar to how you can walk out of your house and talk to your neighbor. The difference is, in the real world, you have to work, but in an MMO, you can do whatever you want. Now that I think about it, I kinda did have a job in the MMO. The point of the game was to complete quests and fight monsters as well as other players. In order to win, you needed to become stronger. And in order to become stronger, you needed to get better items and better equipment. In order to get better items and equipment, you would need more gold to buy those items and equipment. While playing, I realized other players were buying ores. So I picked up my pickaxe and started my 9 to 5, mining. The players who had a lot of gold didn't want to waste their time mining, but they still needed that ore. So I learned really quickly that if I was able to provide them ore or services, then I would be able to get paid for that. That didn't last long though, because I got tired of slaving away mining ores for other people. I started wondering, why were these other players buying this ore in the first place? I found out that the other players were using this ore to increase their crafting levels, and by increasing their crafting levels, they can make items and equipment and make more gold from that. So I found out these players would need a lot of ore to increase their level, and it would take them forever to get it. That's why they were buying it. They were also willing to pay a little extra if I can give them a large quantity at a time so they can save time from buying little bits and pieces from players here and there. Once I realized this, my career as a miner ended. I became kind of like an 8-year-old businessman. I ended up saving money and then buying ore from other players who had small amounts, and then I ended up stockpiling them until I had a large quantity. Then I would take that large quantity and sell it in bulk to the richer players, and they would give me a premium for that. Basically, I saved them time and they were willing to pay for it. That sounds very similar to real life, right? You provide a service, people are willing to pay for it. If you can save them time, then they're willing to pay even more for it. There's a lot of jobs like that. For instance, if you pay a kid to mow your lawn, they're saving you time by mowing the lawn for you, and you pay them for that time saving, right? Anyway, as time went on, I got better and better at the game, and I got stronger and stronger equipment. Now, I had many friends in real life who actually played that same game with me. They actually ended up buying equipment from me for in real life dollars. So I would sell equipment to them for $2 or $3. I mean, I know that's not a lot, but as an 8-year-old kid, that was exhilarating. As I grew a little and went to middle school, I started playing a game called Gunbound. Now, Gunbound taught me a very important life lesson, which is the world is not fair, but you need to take advantage of what you have and do the best that you can. Gunbound was a shooting type game where the objective was to kill your opponent. And each person can buy equipment and weapons to make themselves stronger. But there were some equipment that you can only buy with cash, like real US dollar cash. So these equipment were generally better than the equipment that you can buy in the game for game money. So whoever had money to spend on this equipment would have a huge advantage on the other players. Now, coming from a poorer family, I didn't have that money to spend on in-game items. So I would always be at a disadvantage when playing. But the game was fun, so I just muscled through it, got better at the game, and was able to achieve a sort of high rank in that game even though I was at a disadvantage. I learned certain tricks that made me better at the game, so even if they did have an advantage, I still had the opportunity to win. I'm so glad that I was able to learn that lesson at such a young age, because that applies to almost everything in your life. The world is not fair, but you still need to do the best that you can with what you got and still try to succeed. Now, when I went to high school, I changed to another game yet again, MapleStory. Now, MapleStory taught me about supply and demand. There was a certain item in this game called 10% deck scrolls. Now, this item was used to upgrade your equipment to make your character stronger. And since this item only has a 10% success rate, players needed a lot of these. The problem was these were kind of hard to get. You can get them at a very low level, but because so many people wanted them and they needed so many, the demand greatly outscaled the supply. So what I ended up doing was I started sourcing these from the lower level players that could get them. I started buying from them and started holding them. Now, I also knew that there was a marketplace outside of the game called Basel Market. Think eBay, but for the game. This website allowed you to put items up and then other players would bid on them and the item would sell to the highest bidder. Now, I realized that on this site, the items generally sell for higher than what they sold for in the game itself. So I started buying more of these scrolls in the game and selling them on Basel Market and made an even bigger profit from that. This taught me that information is crucial. If you know more, you have the advantage. Other players in the game who didn't know about Basel Market, they lost out on a huge opportunity because they just didn't have that information. They ended up selling their items for a lower price because they didn't know where to sell it for a higher price. Now, after high school ended and I started college, a game called Diablo 3 was released. Yeah, I know, it just happened that every single time I went to a different school, I started playing a different game. So Diablo 3 had a marketplace in the game similar to Basel Market, but it was integrated into the game so everybody can use it. What I learned here is people don't really know what things are worth. I would constantly find things put on the marketplace for well below market value. What I ended up just doing was buying it and then putting it back into the market for the actual price. I ended up doing that over and over again and made so much gold from that. People do this in real life all the time. People buy sneakers and then resell it. People buy cars and then resell it. People even buy houses and then resell it. That's what real estate wholesaling is. There's an entire industry on this. All they do is find property at a low price and then just resell it at the real price. Fun fact, Diablo 3 was a very popular game at the time. It was geared towards more of an adult audience. Now, it's not what you're thinking. It's because there was gore and violence. Now, the adult players had money, but what they didn't have was time. So I ended up actually selling my in-game gold for real-world money. I actually made a decent amount of money on that. Thinking back now, I think video games actually played such a key role in my life and how I've developed as a person. I actually learned so much from it. Nobody in school teaches you about this, how to make money, how to take advantage of situations that you find. It's pretty much entrepreneurship at its rawest form. Now, I still use so many of those principles that I've learned so many years ago in my investing and business today. I just felt like this was a really interesting topic to talk about. If you've had any similar experiences, please tell me about them in the comments below. And as always, please hit the like button and the subscribe button if you want to see more content. All right, thank you.